Have you ever wondered why some women seem to effortlessly claim a man's heart, while others feel as though they're forever competing with the ghost of someone who came before them? It's a strange ache loving a man whose past still breathes inside him. And the deeper truth is this: love is never just about beauty, charm, or attraction. It's sculpted by confidence, self-worth, psychology, attachment patterns, and the emotional imprints we carry from our past. Before we step into the heart of this journey, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you were fighting against a memory you didn't create? A shadow you didn't summon? If so, what you're about to read may change the way you think about relationships and about yourself forever. Imagine sitting across from a man you care for deeply. His body is there, his hands may be warm in yours, his voice soft enough to comfort you, but behind his eyes you sense something else, a flicker, a name that isn't spoken, a past presence that still lingers in the quiet spaces of his mind. It's unsettling how a person can walk away from someone physically, yet carry them like an invisible scar. That's what psychologists call an emotional imprint, not just a memory, but the residue of a bond that once shaped him. And the more intense that bond was, the deeper the imprint tends to be. Here's where the trap begins. The moment you sense that ghost, a comparison spiral awakens. Am I prettier? Kinder, more interesting. Did he love her? More? The questions come quietly at first, but when insecurity takes root, the mind becomes its own tormentor. What you don't realize is that each comparison strengthens the ghost's power, because the competition is never between you and his ex. It is always between your grounded, secure self and the version of you that collapses under insecurity. Human psychology reveals something even more painful. People cling to what feels familiar, even if it was dysfunctional. If a man came from chaos, narcissistic dynamics, volatile attachment, emotional abandonment, his nervous system began associating unpredictability with love. He becomes entangled, not because he wants the past, but because his body is conditioned to expect its patterns. Then you come along, steady, warm, offering safety his system doesn't yet recognize. You become the unknown, and the ghost becomes the familiar. This is the emotional battlefield you never signed up for. But here is the shift you must understand. You cannot erase an imprint, but you can become the one who creates a stronger one. Imagine new roots pushing against poisoned soil. The old roots are still there, tangled and dark, but if you water the new one's confidence, presence, stability, they slowly reshape the ground. That's how you become unforgettable. Not by fighting the past, but by embodying a future that is incomparable. This takes practice, not collapsing into comparison, not shrinking when he withdraws, and not personalizing his hesitation. When your energy communicates, I am whole, I don't compete with shadows, something inside him recalibrates. Slowly, he begins to associate you with peace instead of chaos, safety instead of fear. Yet here lies the paradox. This transformation doesn't occur when you're desperate to create. It happens when you detach from the need to prove anything. The highest value a woman can embody is this: I refuse to measure myself against someone who is no longer here. When you hold your boundaries, your dignity, your center, you force the past to fade, not by erasing it, but by making it irrelevant. Of course, not every man is ready. Some cling to their ghosts forever, using them as shields against vulnerability. But the men who are ready, truly ready, recognize the difference instantly. Because a woman who doesn't compete becomes a woman who defines the standard. A woman who cannot be replaced because she was never trying to replace anyone in the first place. Now, the deeper question emerges: what does it truly mean to belong to someone not just in their life, but in their soul? Because belonging is the glue of human connection. It's more powerful than beauty, more enduring than chemistry. Without belonging, even passion fades into emptiness. Psychologists say belonging is primal. Humans are wired from birth to seek it first from parents, then from partners. If a man's sense of belonging has been fractured through betrayal, trauma, loss, he becomes guarded. He might crave closeness, but fear it simultaneously. Many women misunderstand this fear and respond by overgiving, overloving, overproving. But that energy suffocates rather than strengthens. Belonging can never be forced. It must be felt. This brings us to 4 words that can speak directly to a man's nervous system, especially one who has known chaos. I've got you. These words, when spoken with emotional integrity, not desperation, create a sensation men rarely experience. They signal safety. They signal grounding. They signal a relationship that doesn't demand perfection, but presence. I've got you means your vulnerability is safe with me. I won't punish you for your wounds. I am calm even when you are storming. This doesn't mean mothering him, nor does it mean losing yourself. True belonging requires balance. You must offer emotional safety without becoming the caretaker of his unhealed wounds. Many women lose themselves here, confusing endurance with intimacy. But belonging dies when one person abandons their own needs to meet someone else's. These 4 words are for you as much as for him. When you say, I've got you, you're declaring that you've got yourself, your boundaries, your emotions, your strength, because feminine energy is not submissive softness. It is stabilizing softness, gentle but immovable, compassionate but self-respecting. But before you can embody this, you must confront your own attachment patterns. That internal panic when he withdraws, that fear of not being enough, those insecurities don't come from him, they come from your past. Many women carry anxious attachment, avoidant protection, or disorganized patterns shaped by trauma or inconsistency. If you react from those wounds, you recreate the pain you're trying to escape. A secure woman doesn't achieve security by luck. She builds it. She learns to sit with discomfort instead of reacting. She recognizes when her mind is comparing, spiraling, catastrophizing, and she pauses. She breathes. She chooses presence over panic. That steadiness becomes her superpower. But comparison is a poison, and it is one of the fastest ways to destroy your connection. When you compare yourself to his ex, you breathe life back into her memory. You reinforce her imprint. You drag her ghost into your relationship with your own hands. But if instead of competing, you ask yourself, am I aligned with my highest self right now? You instantly reclaim power. The ghost dissolves because you are no longer feeding it. True confidence, the kind that makes a man's soul rest in your presence, doesn't shout. It doesn't perform. It whispers. It radiates. It says, I am whole even when you're distant. I am grounded even when you're confused. I am valuable regardless of who came before me. This kind of confidence isn't born of perfection. It's born of resilience, of alchemized pain, healed wounds, self-knowledge, and boundaries. When a man who has known chaos meets a woman whose presence is steady, something inside him softens. He leans in without knowing why. He feels safe in a way he has never felt before. But safety is not passivity. A confident woman does not tolerate disrespect. She does not shrink herself to keep the peace. Her strength comes from the quiet ability to say, this is who I am, this is what I deserve, and I will not abandon myself for anyone. This presence isn't something you use to keep him. If it becomes a tactic, it loses its integrity. Men sense manipulation even if they can't articulate it. But when your calm comes from inner truth, it becomes the anchor in his emotional sea. Communication, too, becomes transformed. Women often silence themselves out of fear of being too much, too emotional, too demanding. But true connection requires vulnerability without collapse. It means speaking from the heart rather than from the wound. There's a profound difference between saying, you never care, and saying, when you withdraw suddenly, my body remembers old wounds, and I feel afraid. One attacks, the other invites closeness. And communication doesn't only live in words. Sometimes the most powerful message is silence, not the cold silence of punishment, but the warm silence of stability. When he storms in overwhelmed, expecting criticism or conflict, and instead finds you steady and grounded, his nervous system rewires slowly, deeply. He learns. Love can be safe. Intimacy doesn't have to hurt. Connection doesn't require chaos. This is how you become unforgettable, not by fighting for a place he has not yet offered, but by becoming the woman whose presence teaches him what real love feels like. When you embody this woman, the one who does not compete with ghosts, who does not collapse under insecurity, who does not overgive, over-explain, or overperform, you transition from wondering whether he will choose you to recognizing that you are the choice. You become the new imprint, the new standard, the new home for his heart. And in this new space of grounded feminine power, the past no longer matters. Not because it disappears, but because it cannot stand in the presence of a woman who truly knows her worth. Very love story you enter becomes a mirror of the love story you hold with yourself. And no matter how deeply you desire a man, miss him, or try to build a future with him, his response will always reflect your relationship with your own soul. When you abandon yourself, men abandon you. When you diminish your worth, men diminish their effort. When you silence your needs, men silence their devotion. And when you try to be enough for a man, you unconsciously teach him that you are someone who must earn love instead of someone who naturally receives it. This is why the deepest feminine power is not about seduction or strategy or psychological tricks. It is about alignment. Alignment with your boundaries, your emotional truth, your divine self-worth, and the kind of love you will never negotiate again. A man can only meet you where you have already met yourself. And if you live in emotional chaos, you will attract men who thrive in chaos. If you constantly chase reassurance, you will attract men who withhold it. If you believe love is earned through struggle, you will attract men who give you exactly that struggle. But when you shift your inner blueprint, everything changes instantly, because men respond to your nervous system before they respond to your words, and your energy becomes the language that speaks louder than anything you text or say. Suddenly you stop over-explaining, proving, performing, or competing with ghosts of his past, and you stop trying to secure love, because aligned love never needs to be chased. Instead, you begin attracting a man who feels calmer in your presence, a man who feels safer to be honest, expressive, committed, and generous. A man who instinctively chooses you, not because you convinced him, but because his soul recognizes a rare combination of softness and strength within you. This is the invisible magic men adore but struggle to articulate. The quiet power of a woman who knows how to hold herself, who understands what she brings, who honors what she will walk away from, and who guards her emotional world like a sacred temple. Men do not stay for beauty alone. They stay for resonance, and a resonant woman is unforgettable. She doesn't need to be loud, dramatic, clingy, or fearful. She simply creates a feeling that no man can compare to anything he has known before, because nothing is more intoxicating to the masculine heart than the presence of a woman deeply rooted in her feminine essence, a woman who does not fear losing a man because she never loses herself. And that is the moment everything shifts, the moment he realizes she isn't competing with his past. She doesn't demand commitment because she naturally inspires it. She doesn't try to be his entire world because she becomes the place where his world finally makes sense. And she doesn't fear his emotional storms because she has mastered her own. This is the woman he chooses fully and devotedly, not because she chased him, proved herself superior to his ex, or begged for his love, but because she holds a type of emotional gravity that pulls truth, loyalty, and devotion out of him effortlessly. Once a man experiences this, he does not compare her with anyone. He does not return to the past, and he does not waver. He simply knows, with a clarity he cannot deny, this is the woman my soul has been waiting for.